Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Character Study Survivor Podcast. My name is Tristan. That is Tyler. Tyler, I'm so excited. We got a good one today. We are talking about the one, the only, the Jungle Man himself, Ozzy Lusth, who is on 5 seasons of Survivor. So we got a lot to talk about today, but that means Ozzy's one of the best characters in the show's history. So it'll be a great experience.
We got to see the transformation from Jungle Boy to Jungle Man, and it's another one of those Survivor journeys where, especially fan perception wise, it was up and down. But spoiler alert, we're back up at the end of this in terms of
I
reception, maybe
and
not in terms of its last play, but
I I think Ozzy's like the reverse Stephanie.
okay.
And like we talked about Stephanie last week. And like Ozzy, I think he's almost gotten better as he's gone on to a certain extent. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, Game Changers obviously is down, but at the up, right? That's where you get season 50 and everything with him and Stephanie. It kind of starts at the high and it kind of only goes downhill, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I mean, it's certainly, especially, and we'll get into this right when we start talking about
Yeah.
his first season, especially, but he's known for challenges and all
Yeah.
that, and starts to pick up on the strategy along the way, and then starts to make some realizations about his strategy
Yeah.
game, which he uses later on. So let's just start at the beginning, right?
Yeah, let's do it. If you don't know who we are, we're producers and storytellers that love Survivor and the characters that make them great. We do this show because we're trying to answer the question of what makes a great Survivor character. Make sure to be a main character. Follow us on Instagram, like and subscribe here on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on TikTok. We've been getting some great engagement on all of our social platforms. Keep it up. We even got Coach to comment on a post we had recently, which was awesome. I gotta hit the
Dragon
Dragon Slayer
Slayer.
a little bit there. I realized we forgot to do it in his episode, which was a huge missed opportunity. But oh well.
Yeah.
You live and you learn, right? We even have enough content. We could probably do Coach Part 2 at some point, but
Mhm.
we'll keep going. We'll talk about one of his main oppositions throughout his Survivor career, Ozzy Lusth. But we're starting at the very beginning. We meet Ozzy in Cook Islands, and we get introduced to the Jungle Boy, somebody who is a maybe the best provider in the history of the show. We're familiar with Rupert, right? Going out and getting the fish, but I don't think anyone has been as skilled as a provider as Ozzy in terms of being somebody who goes into the sea to catch fish, somebody who will climb anything, any tree to get any food. Ozzy is one of the very best.
That's why he was named the Jungle Boy or Poseidon.
Hmm.
I mean, he gets all these nicknames as to how gifted he is in terms of his physical abilities to provide for the tribe. In early Survivor, that it was huge. It still is really important now, but especially looking back on the early seasons, that is the game, and he totally leaned into that persona in his first couple of seasons, and still did later on as well. But he realized that was going to be the smart play for him, and ultimately it works out pretty well for him early on.
Definitely does. Well, I think Ozzy's always kind of been like he's not known as a strategic person, right? Like he's known as a challenge beast. He's known as having some social game upside, right? But I think Ozzy's always been a out of the box thinker in terms of strategy.
Hmm.
And we see that right away. They throw this tribe, these Cook Island season separated by race, which was a big hubbub in the Survivor
Yeah.
community. Still, I can't believe they actually did it, but after like an episode and a half, they just swap tribes, so it doesn't even matter anymore. But he throws they throw the challenge. The Hispanic tribe throws the challenge to vote out Billy. Gets annoyed about Billy's work ethic at camp and creates the Billy Garcia moment at Tribal. So thank you to Ozzy for this because without this, we wouldn't get one of the very best Survivor scenes and one of I know our personal favorites. We send this to each other once every couple of months.
I mean, is it the greatest moment of Survivor of all?
It might be. It might be.
I love it.
It's so good. So if you don't know what happens, and this isn't a podcast on Billy, right? But
We need to do one of those.
I
Really milk as
I
much as
would
we
love
can
it.
out of those first two
I
episodes.
would love it. I would love it. So Billy loses the first challenge or the second challenge, right? And there's a misunderstanding with Candace Woodcock, now Candace Woodcock Cody. She says we love you, and he takes that as I love you. Then at Tribal, he says that it was that's his prize in the game. Is he met the love of his life, Candace, and Jeff is at his very best during this Tribal Council. Just the genuine look of shock on Jeff's face is priceless.
And what he says too. I mean, he provides
Candace
from
from
World
Roro
Tribe.
Tribe.
I mean, it is, yeah, it's iconic.
That's going
And
to be
I
my
don't think he
fantasy
meant for
survivor
it to
name
be.
next season.
Yeah, you got to include that somewhere.
Ah,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, but Ozzy gets to be a part of that. What a
I
lucky
mean,
guy.
and Ozzy caused it. So thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you to
Mhm.
Ozzy. Um, so after the tribe swap happens, we talked about that they were swapped from tribes by race pretty quickly. Forms a bond with Cecilia and Sundra, and is in the minority after Cowboy and Flicka flip, but is spared due to his physical prowess and being a provider. We've already talked about he's an unbelievable fisherman. Yule nicknames him Poseidon.
Mhm.
If the Cyclops called out to this Poseidon in the Odyssey, they would have been cooked.
Oh
Ozzy in the
yeah.
water there.
They don't
Um,
know what's coming.
so we skip ahead a little bit. After Penner and Candace mutiny, Ozzy, Yule, Sundra, and Becky form the I-24, which is one of the great alliances in Survivor history because it is the ultimate underdog story. Despite being
Mhm.
down in numbers 8-4, Ozzy's challenge ability has them going into the merge only down 5-4. And this sets up Yule to flip Penner by showing him the idol, giving them the advantage for the rest of the game.
Overall, I mean, it starts with this season, but overall, it's kind of weird to look at Ozzy as the underdog figure
Yeah,
because, like, the physical prowess that he has, but he uses that prowess that he has in order to get out from that position
for
multiple
sure.
different times. I mean, this becomes a big thing as we get into South Pacific, especially where he has to continue to battle to keep himself and those that he's working with in the game. But he embraces that underdog position as well. He realizes that's the case and knows he has to lean into that in order to succeed.
Yeah. Ozzy goes on one of the most impressive immunity runs in the show's history, wins 5 of the 6 post-merge immunity challenges. We remember the one he doesn't because Adam wins it, and Jeff says, a kiss is nice, but if it was love, maybe he would give you the immunity necklace when
Mhm.
Candace is voted out, who she was sweeting on throughout the season. Um, he makes the final tribal council after winning the final 4 immunity in the first final 3 ever. If the final 3 doesn't happen, Ozzy wins this season in a landslide because Yule is likely taken out at the final 2 due to Ozzy's challenge. I mean, he probably wins the final 3 challenge, but
No
probably.
need to assume he's lost final challenges before.
I mean, that's fair, right?
Yeah.
But and Yule
Yeah,
was no
like
slouch in challenges,
yeah.
But I
But you're
definitely,
right. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
if Yule's out of the equation, Ozzy's gonna win.
Yeah. Um, and Ozzy and Yule split votes for the first ever Final Four fire making challenge between Sundra and Becky. We'll save you the time of talking about that one. We'll have to go to matches, okay?
It
Um,
might be as long as this podcast is.
I wish we get like an elapsed time on the
Yeah,
screen of like how long
yeah.
it took. Um, many jurors only saw him as a physical threat. Some questioned his youth, mainly Jonathan Penner. Um, Ozzy does open up about his relationship with his father here, something we'll talk about later because that actually comes back in a Survivor 50 story. Um, and Ozzy loses by 1 vote to Yule at Final Tribal Council 5-4 in one of the most highly contested Final Tribal Councils in Survivor history up to that point. It was probably the most divisive between the fan base on who should have won. Probably not since Boston Rob and Amber, right? That there was this much of a who should have won debate.
And Yule's a pretty highly regarded winner.
Yep.
Um, Overall, I mean, everyone's list is so different now in terms of winner rankings, but he's definitely towards the top for a lot of people. Um, and the fact that Ozzy gets that close is something that we forget about because he was competing with, especially at the time, one of the top winners that Survivor had had.
Yeah. Well, in a jury that was really, I mean, that whole season was basically recruits,
Hmm.
and they weren't fully in on the game, you know? So, I almost wonder if like there were some more like game savvy people if Yule wins that more
Yeah.
handily. But really, Ozzy is, I mean, people say all the time Ozzy doesn't have a chance to win Survivor, right? It was right there. It was right there.
Right there. Right there. Multiple times.
Legitimately, if Yule does not put Penner's hat on his chair, this doesn't, I'd like somebody to give my hat back. I mean, if that doesn't happen, legitimately, Ozzy might win this game.
Yeah. It is that close. And Ozzy definitely has strategy in the first season, but I think what holds him back is that Yule is more composed in that aspect.
Yes.
And even though they're impressed with what Ozzy has done and the underdog mentality he's had all season, a lot of them lean towards the calmer presence that Yule is. That's my
You,
perspective on it. What do you think? Do you think
yeah,
that's the
Yule's
reason
the
why it is?
godfather.
Yeah.
You know, he's somebody who's in control. He's smooth. He's calculated. Like, he just makes it look easy. And
Hmm.
I think like that's where you can split hairs on Yule, right? I think some people don't give him as much credit because of the idol he had, which is to a certain extent like don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a game mechanic, right? In the words of War Dog, uh, the theme is not on trial, you're on trial,
Hmm.
right? Like I mean, you know, you can judge whatever you want, right? But in terms of the game, you play the cards you're dealt.
Yeah.
And I think Yule just made it look super easy the entire time. He's a really smart guy, obviously, you know. I mean, elephants can't climb up trees, right? We all know that because of Yule. So thank
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, we
Um,
needed that.
and he did get a date. So good for Yule. Um, but yeah, like that's just something to break down here. You ready to move to Micronesia?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So Ozzy is a big time fan favorite, right? After
Mhm.
Cook Island, so it makes sense that he is on the fan versus favorite season. I believe he actually won a car as part of the fan favorite for Survivor Cook Islands. And right away, he begins a relationship with Amanda Kimmel. Joins the couples alliance with Amanda, Parvati, and James. He says in his first confessional, he's like, "No, Amanda, she's cute, you know, but I'm gonna try to keep my distance," and that lasts for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Makes out with Amanda at night. Sari catches on to this, says she's expecting birth announcements from Amanda with her little oslets. In a line that just forever will stay in my brain
Mhm.
from Sari. I mean, Micronesia is just a great season, and that's no surprise to anyone that's a Survivor fan, right? But just a really interesting wrinkle here. This was a showmance that was there, and it was not hard to tell if it was real, but there were parts where, like, is this fully reciprocated?
Hmm.
Like, I think the closest thing I could relate it to in modern Survivor is probably like Dee and Austin a little bit on Survivor 45 if they just outright flirted and, you know, did that kind of stuff more.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that kind of stuff just doesn't really happen on Survivor anymore.
no, no.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Um,
reasons behind that for sure.
for sure. Um, you know, and he's on a season, not just with him, but with two clones, Jason and Eric. So really, if he would have gathered the cavalry, he could have had two extra votes in his pocket the entire time. But
Yeah.
they see Ozzy as somewhat of a threat, and they kind of idolize him, which is not ideal. Speaking of idols, though, he finds the idol on Exile and makes a fake, which is a stick with a face on it, which is maybe the worst fake idol in the history of Survivor. He says he hopes somebody will find it and try to play it. And brother, you have no idea.
Yes.
You have no idea of what this is going to lead to. I'm realizing in doing our research for this podcast, Ozzy is really the catalyst for so many awesome Survivor moments.
I was just gonna say that as well. Yeah, he's the man behind the curtain behind some of the funniest scenes that you get on Survivor. Like he has no clue the amazing moments that he's providing, but yet he just sets them up perfectly and lets the rest of the characters on the show do the rest, do their work. Ozzy, really the man behind the scenes, the maybe the best producer of the show that we've had, because he just continues to provide two great moments in his first two seasons, with more to come as we go later on in the seasons.
I mean, just sensational. Ozzy leads the alliance of Sari and Amanda to take out Joel, Chet, Tracy, and Amy in the pre-merge. He keeps Eric over Amy because he was more trustworthy. By the way, it's a crying shame that we have not gotten Amy Cusack back on Survivor since Micronesia.
Mhm.
Um, Jason then finds Ozzy's fake. He gives it to his ally Eliza to play, and Eliza plays it, and Jeff throws it into the fire after it's fake. Eliza then says Ozzy has the real one, but not before. When Jason gives her the idol, she says, "It's an effing stick." One of the great lines in the history of this reality TV show.
Ozzy, two thumbs up, no notes, well done. Yeah, standing ovation. That's it.
Amazing. Great
He's
execution all
the
around.
ultimate. I can't remember who we made this analogy with previously, but one of the basketball players who's just the ultimate the assister,
Yeah,
throwing
John
not enough
Stockton.
slam. Yep, exactly. Yep, that's Ozzy.
Yeah. Well, he's more like Chris Paul, though.
Why?
Like he's great assist, he's like the ultimate like kind of teammate guy, but like can't get
Mhm.
over the hump at the end.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see that.
we'll throw Chris Paul there. Um, and I could see Ozzy in a State Farm commercial.
Yeah, throw him right next to Mahomes and
Yeah.
all those guys.
Uh, Ozzy, you wanted to be in the White Lotus. We're giving you a good consolation prize right here.
Yeah,
Um, but the thing that was really Ozzy's Achilles heel in Micronesia was his arrogance. We see
yeah.
this time and time again throughout the remaining Survivor seasons that Ozzy's on, believe it or not. This becomes his Achilles heel. He's blindsided by Sari at the final nine, which to a certain extent, no shame there. Basically, everyone has been blindsided by Sari at some point throughout her Survivor career. All of the women, minus Amanda, vote for Ozzy here. He is the first victim of the Black Widow Brigade, and he's out with an idol in his pocket.
That won't be the last time we say this.
It's like this podcast is like a tragedy.
It
Like
is.
you can
It
just like
is.
in doing the notes, you can literally see the thread lines throughout it. Like you can't write this like it's like somebody wrote it. Like that's how crazy it
Yeah.
is.
And I keep saying, oh, we'll come back to this point. We'll come back to this because Ozzy does learn lessons, but yet the same situations and scenarios still come back to bite him despite him learning that lesson.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is one of the more fascinating survivor stories out there of all time.
Well, at Final Tribal Council, he expresses his love for Amanda and votes for her to win. We know that at least the relationship lasted until after the reunion show, because they are seen together throughout that. And then at some time after that, they split.
Hmm. Which we could come back to that if we want, or maybe we leave that one.
Yeah. I think I might have a question that brings us back there.
Okay,
If
if it comes
we
up.
talk about it, we'll see. You ready to go to South Pacific?
Yeah,
So Ozzy's brought back as a captain with coach, and people probably didn't want either captain to make it very far in their game, but people really wanted Ozzy on their tribe if you're
yeah.
going to take a pick of the two. Um, and really, Ozzy's Achilles heel again becomes his arrogance, and really he's hyper fixated on taking out Cochran.
this this lasts for a long time throughout the season. But just to go back to what you said too, yeah, they were so happy that Ozzy was on their tribe. Obviously, they looked at him as a threat, but why would you rid of a threat when he can win you challenges? Was kind of
And
his whole
provide.
tribe's mentality, and yeah, and provide. So he immediately, from being the underdog and his the last couple of his seasons, is now starting at the top, not only because he's played before, but because everyone knows who they're playing with and are going to embrace him for as long as they can, until eventually they have to turn on him and he becomes the ultimate underdog again.
Well, he's hyper fixated on taking out Cochran due to his challenge ability. He joins Jim's 3+2 alliance and then finds the idol. He gets close to Elise, where Jim gets spooked because the goal is to take out the females eventually. And then Jim works with Cochran and Dawn to blindside Elise. This causes Ozzy to go off that night around the fire, causing him calling himself a free agent and saying that he has the idol, which
Yeah.
is the first of multiple Ozzy freakouts at night.
Yeah, not his best moments to shine here, literally, because it's dark outside too.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of gameplay and in terms of just looking at it from a human standpoint, you obviously would hope Ozzy would react better. I'm assuming he feels that he could have reacted better. But again, it's one of those learning opportunities that he takes up for himself. And there's multiple other conversations where he'll be yelling and screaming, saying things he shouldn't say that I would argue are worse than what you have here in this one. And yeah, it's not a great look for him, but it provides for what we will see in his future. And it's really what made a lot of the fan base start to slowly turn on him before the tides turn back.
Yeah, this was definitely a turning point in the fan base, especially because Cochran was built up so much, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, Cochran, what he goes on to do his next season doesn't help Ozzy's perspective of him here, you know. But the next day, Ozzy is able to patch up some of his alliances, so much so that he hatches a plan literally called the Trojan Horse. We talked about the Odyssey earlier. It's coming back right here. He creates this plan. If Savai loses the next immunity, they vote Ozzy out so that he can use Redemption Island for his tribe's advantage. Redemption Island is brought back this season after being brought back for season 22. If you're looking at who the captains they brought back, Coach and Ozzy, Redemption Island is tailor made for them in terms of storylines, right? You have Ozzy, the best challenge performer in the show's history, and you have Coach, which if he loses on Redemption Island would be an all-time crash out. But Ozzy would beat Christine, who was dominating at Redemption Island, at the merge duel and evens the tribe before the merge. Coach's tribe did have an advantage here in terms of numbers. And if they got Christine back, it would have been a further advantage. But Ozzy is able to even it out after defeating Christine on Redemption. Ozzy gives his idol to Cochran before he does this, and then he receives his idol back once he re-enters the game. He gives that idol then to Whitney, anticipating a 6-6 tie after winning immunity, but Cochran flips and votes out Keith upon the revote. There's a lot we just talked about there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'll start from what might be Ozzy's most iconic move in the show's history,
For
and that's
revenge, I guess.
yeah, but allowing himself to be voted out, to take the chance to go up against Christine and try and get back into the game. It's a perfect blend of who Ozzy is as a physical player and who he's trying to be as a strategic player, making a strategic move to allow his physical abilities to be at the forefront, to trust himself physically enough to strategically tell people to do something that you never want to happen to you in the game of Survivor, to benefit yourself and those around you, and then to actually pull it off is incredible.
It's one of the gutsiest plays in Survivor history.
Hmm.
And the fact that he does it again is even crazier. But we'll talk about this here in a minute. Um, Ozzy and Savai lay into Cochran after this, after his flip. But it was because of their treatment of Cochran that made him do it. And that's the story that the edit's trying to tell us. And that's what happened, right? Like you can't really make this into the edit, right? Like this just happened. And this is where Ozzy's arrogance sometimes doesn't allow him to see the full picture. And we see this here with our with the treatment of Cochran causing him to flip. It's super easy to figure out why he did it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all there, and Ozzy's reaction afterwards also says it all.
Hmm.
Why would Cochran want to work with Ozzy enough when he knows that's how he's going to be treated?
Yeah.
That's how he has been treated by Ozzy and the rest of the alliance. Or Cochran's in a really difficult position in the
Yeah.
game because he's on the bottom no matter where he goes, really. He ultimately does start to climb his way up before he sees his demise. But what can you expect him to do? There's no understanding or realization on Ozzy's side of it. It's another one of those moments where you just look back on and you can't argue that it was a good look for Ozzy. And again, I'm sure he would say the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. Ozzy is immediately voted out after this, and then sent to redemption once again. He defeats every challenger, including a heck of a fight from Cochran, which would have
Yeah.
been just amazing if Cochran beats Ozzy here. Um, he said he would feed them and then beat them anyway, which is pretty cold.
Yeah.
And then,
The Cochran moment when they're both getting ready for the challenge the night
yeah,
before and Ozzy says, "Oh, you stand a chance. Don't worry, you stand a chance." And then Ozzy goes into confessional and he goes, "He doesn't stand a chance." It's like again, that's another microcosm of their relationship all season where Ozzy's saying things to Cochran thinking that he's going to just blindly listen to him, but then also in reality being a completely different player. It's just not something that's going to lead you to get votes at the end of the game, even if Ozzy gets there.
and it's Ozzy empowering Cochran, right? To a certain extent. Like he's giving him the tools based on his like puppet string strategic plan, right? Like he's trying to puppet Cochran. But what he's doing is by saying this, he's actually giving somebody who actually knows what to do when there are tools in his hands. He's giving him the means to take him out of the game. And this doesn't just happen once. This happens multiple times throughout South Pacific, which is an interesting story here. He beats Brandon Hance in the final duel, and is re-entered at the final five where he wins individual immunity. He beats Sophie after she requested help from Albert, something Jeff would later say broke the rules and would lead Ozzy to vote for her at this tribal and at final tribal council to call her a spoiled brat.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, Ozzy's right there too. Just before getting the spoiled brat of it all. I mean, coming back, winning the final five challenge, being one challenge away, one of the most clutch wins in Survivor of all time from Sophie.
No doubt.
Something that's very under the radar because Ozzy, I think, wins that season.
I do too. Yeah, I
I
think.
think he does. I know
Yeah,
he's rubbed some people the wrong way, but a lot of his tribe is still with him. And a lot of Coach and Sophie's tribe is also on the jury, but has turned on Coach or
yeah,
Sophie or both of them. And the same applies really with Albert as well.
yeah.
So Ozzy's sitting there being the one person that has the opposing viewpoint, and sometimes that's all it takes. But just to see him go out in that way is difficult
That might
because,
be the most bitter jury in the history of Survivor if Ozzy gets there over Sophie. It
yeah,
already is one of the most bitter.
yeah,
Not saying that Coach deserved it, right? Um, but yeah. Um, Coach expressed his desire to bring Ozzy to Final Tribal as a worthy competitor. Ozzy doubted this,
yeah.
and when he loses to Sophie in the final immunity challenges, he's proven correct as he's unanimously voted out. And this is where, according to Coach, he allegedly poisons the well against him. I think Coach had mainly done that. I mean, we know how Ozzy gets when he's voted out, right? Like, or he's blindsided. Like, it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that he definitely said some not glowing things about Coach. That's definitely possible, but not sure if Ozzy is the reason Coach doesn't win that season.
Certainly plays a factor, I think. But yeah, Coach does a lot of it to himself, and I think Ozzy's just there to point out what Coach has done to himself.
Yeah. All right, you ready to move to game changers? And you got anything more about South Pacific?
Nothing too wild. I think well, we talked about the bitterness that Ozzy has a lot of the times, but he's voted out three times on the season. He goes out hooting and hollering on the last time he's voted out. It's a good moment for him to end the season after he's had some up and down moments, but he's still the Ozzy that people love back in the day as well. It's all still there. And we'll see if that continues into Game Changers as we talk about it.
Well, I mean, Ozzy sets the record for most times being voted out in a single season of Survivor. I
Yeah,
mean, that record will never be broken. And I hate to
probably
see the
not.
game mechanic that would make that possible.
I don't know. We're in the open era. It could
Please don't.
happen.
Please don't. All right. Let's talk game changers because there's really not a lot here. We can kind of yada yada some of this. Um, he discusses with JT the possibility of voting out Suri first, claimed it was not a grudge from Micronesia. How true is that? Who knows? Um, Once a game became the tribe provider, Ozzy votes out Sandra after realizing her threat when she wants to take out Ty. Sandra points out that Ty, Aubrey, and Debbie were all in the same season and could form an alliance. Ozzy takes this and like, hey, Sandra's really a threat. Let's get her out of here. So Ozzy does vote out Sandra. And now, for the first time in this podcast series, we're getting to the Jeff Varner of it all.
Hmm.
Ozzy is appalled at Varner after outing Zeke as transgender. He tells Varner he should be ashamed of himself and joins Jeff in verbal elimination of Varner. Ozzy is a big proponent of the LGBTQ plus community, always has been. He himself is bisexual, which he revealed after this season. And this is just a moment where it's a hot button issue for Ozzy, as it is just in general, right? Um, and this is that. If you have anything else to say, I mean, this is probably the best moment for Ozzy, I guess, in kind of the worst way. This is not a stellar season from our man Oscar here, but this is like one of the main bright moments.
Yeah, I mean, he has the reaction that most people have, the proper reaction to hearing that in the moment, and just in general. Yeah, it becomes a good voice to have, but that's definitely a standout for him. As for the rest of the season, he's kind of just hidden. He's really not
Yeah,
around too much, and when you get some confessionals from him, there's not too much substance to it, which is weird because he's been a focal point in every season that he's been on, even when he was voted out somewhat early, one of those times. And yeah, I mean, he's just unfortunately not a big presence on the season, and that's why a lot of people thought it was it for him.
yeah, he made his fourth consecutive merge. Loses
Hmm.
to Ty in the final 12 immunity challenge, is booted by Debbie after she targets him and uses the extra vote against him to break a 6-6 tie. Ozzy and 6-6 ties don't work out, as we've learned.
Hmm.
He criticizes Sarah's deceitful gameplay at Final Tribal, votes for Brad Culpepper, who loses 7-3 to 0. And this is like the point where we kind of expected this to be the end of the story of Ozzy. And that's what makes Survivor 50 so refreshing.
Hmm. You brought up Stephanie earlier. We talked about her last week. This feels like where Stephanie's story ends now.
Agreed.
If
Yeah.
Ozzy doesn't come back, I think they have a similar story, which shows there's potential for Stephanie as well, just like Ozzy did in season 50, which I'm excited to talk about now.
So, Tyler, what were your thoughts when we first heard that Ozzy was going to be on season 50? Because I think for a lot of people, me included, right? We were all kind of in the mindset of, okay, here we go again. It's going to be Ozzy. He does the same thing every time. They're bringing him back because CBS loves him. They're turning an eye to some of the stuff, and oh, fine. It very much seemed like a pick of production, not a pick of CBS, not a pick of production.
Definitely. Right hand up, I was in that camp as well.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I didn't see much potential for Ozzy. I thought best case scenario, he'd make it past the merge again and have a similar game to
Yeah.
maybe what he did on Micronesia or
Yeah.
I didn't think he would make a big run like he did on Cook Islands or in South Pacific. But I mean, we get the best case scenario from Ozzy, and it starts right out of the gate. He is all over the premiere episode, which was shocking to us at the
We
time.
get the best Ozzy in his
Yes,
last appearance. And I don't think it's
exactly.
particularly close. This is the best Ozzy. Um, so he comes into the game trying to play as Oscar. More on this later because this is important. Kind of towards the end of his run here on season 50. In the fight for supplies, Ozzy gets the key off the ring, but Coach takes it from right under him. It reignites the rivalry with Coach. Check out our Coach episode for a full breakdown of that. Um, he gets an extra vote in a negotiation with Q on Exile Island. He's showing a little bit of his strategic. He says that Ozzy or Oscar's a fast-talking negotiator. I don't know about that, but you know, it's a little bit. It's there, right? We'll go with him on
Hmm.
this.
At
Um,
times.
he later gives the idol to Suri, or the extra vote to Suri, which becomes extremely important later in the season. He forms a relationship with Suri, putting the bygones aside. They're each other's ride or die this season. And he keeps her safe throughout the first vote of this season, in a spot where Suri was unbelievably vulnerable. And still, it's amazing that nobody figured out they were working together until it was too late.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the Nazi situation as much in the past seasons, but they do have a lot of history. So it's more shocking if you go
Hmm.
back and watch their seasons to see that they were willing to both come together and be the number one, the ride or die for each other. At the time, I remember not trusting that was going to be the case. I thought Sari was just going to use Izzy to get herself further in the game, which she does, but there also is a mutual relationship there.
Yeah.
And I just remember so distinctly being like, "Oh, Ozzy's gone." He had however many, he had 19 confessionals in the first episode, something like that.
19
Yeah,
confessionals. One of the highest
insane.
premieres ever.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, he's definitely gone." They were giving him his last run, but then no, it's Jenna who goes out, and Ozzy is able to make a move against her, and that was when the tide started to turn, but I was still not on the Ozzy train yet. I was just it took some time because we were in denial that he could go on a run like he did in 50.
I remember us having a conversation. We were both like, okay, I'm open to seeing what Ozzy brings, you know?
Yeah.
Like this started to open our minds a little bit, you know? Like you can talk all the game, you can talk you're gonna play a different game, but until we see it, it's all just talk, you know? And that's the thing about some of these shows sometimes.
Because he did say all the time, this is the season I'm going to bring the strategy into the fold. This is the
Hmm.
season I'm gonna be different than you've seen. And it never just fully came across until now.
Yeah. Well, he gets a Billie Eilish boomerang idol from Genevieve, who gives it to him because he's been known in the past to leave with an idol in his pocket. Foreshadowing. Says, quote, he needs to keep his brain on target and not do anything stupid. No,
Foreshadowing.
no. Like, if you go back and watch some of these season 50 episodes, like, this is the story they're really trying to tell the entire season. Like more than anything else, you know, they're telling Aubrey's story, obviously because she's the winner of the season. They're telling the story of a couple other people. They're telling the story of Suri. I think the stories that they tell in season 50 that they actually try to tell, they do a really good job of.
They do. And Ozzy's one they keyed in on because they knew how tragic it was going to
Yeah.
be. But it goes back to what I said earlier. The lessons that he has learned, he says them out loud. He knows them to be true. And a lot of times, especially in this season, he's acting upon what he has learned. He's building number one relationships, allowing Sari to be his strategic force and trying to make himself do that, to work together, to put people in front of him, to not try and be overly threatening in the physical and the all that ability on the side of it, the provider side, to still do that. But he's a perfect mix of where he's been, but yet small scenarios creep in, allow Ozzy to make mistakes, particularly towards the end of his game when Sari is not around, which we will get to later on. And that's all it takes. He's learned the lessons and he applies the lessons, but it just takes one slip up in this crazy game and it's done.
He's blindsided after Mike White is taken out by Christian's 3-2-1. He wanted to be Mike White's number one ally. One, because they knew each other outside of the game. And two, because he desperately wanted to be on the White Lotus. He blows up at Christian at the fire that night. Another lesson that Ozzy had learned, but doesn't follow through. He gets Cochrane flashbacks. Christian calls this out. It's a whole thing. The next morning, then, we see Ozzy's meditation, which is a great montage. Um, you know, there are montages like this a lot in Survivor, but I think this is one of the better ones, especially because we know who Ozzy is as a character and how much all that means to him, right? He doesn't trust Christian, so he asks for the shot in the dark as a sign of trust. Um, and we get close to the merge. He locks in the relationship with Emily after telling him that he has an idol, not a Facebook AI generated relationship. Very important to bring that up. Uh,
We said how many times we were going to talk about that. It's only been one so far.
I mean, I'm
Good
just
work.
trying to be restrained, but I'm trying to also do my civic duty here.
Doing your due
Um,
diligence.
but everyone finds out that he has one rather quickly. Do you want to talk about anything in that chunk?
I think his relationship with Christian is another interesting to him, just a bit more because he very much sees the opposing viewpoint that Christian brings towards the game,
Yeah,
where he's calling Christian a robot and saying he doesn't know if he's human, doesn't understand why he would do all of these things. Where the old Ozzy is creeping back in. Those are
yeah,
things Ozzy would say about Cochran on South
yeah.
Pacific, other players throughout the rest of his season. And it's all there. And yeah, he'll blow up on Christian when he does something he doesn't want, when he turns on Mike White, he doesn't know about it. Yet he says, "Oh, they told me I would have blown up their game." Like he's he's realizing the reality of it, realizing why they did it, still being upset about it, but at least having that realization allows him to move on and try and work with players like Christian moving forward in the game, which is what you have to do, even though it is hard to take the emotion out of it.
Well, the merge is where Ozzy forms an alliance that is the dominant alliance of the season. He forms Cerise Wizard of Oz. Sir Wizard of Oz was right there, but okay. Um, I guess.
I think they tried to rebrand it as the Wizard of Oz when the season was airing, but
Okay, there
it
we
was too
go.
late. It was too
Because they
late.
called it Cerise Wizard of Oz. I'm like, that's just kind of clunky. I mean,
Yeah.
unless we're just uh, putting Suri aside because she's the queen that she is, right? But anyway, Ozzy wins the reward of going to exile, which is a crappy reward, but actually turns out to be great when both him and Rizzo are safe from the Blood Moon. He locks in this relationship with Rizzo, as Rizzo has already locked in his relationship with Suri, which sounds like some kind of branch steal, to be honest with you, unless it actually happened, which it did. Um, Ozzy wins his first individual immunity on the season, one away from Boston Rob's record of 10 in his career. Surprisingly, does not win one for the rest of the season. I would have bet good money that Ozzy would have won one more.
I think that's something that helps him though. It takes away the
For
persona of who he
sure.
was.
Yeah.
And obviously he's trying to win these challenges. It's not like he's throwing the challenges to
Yeah.
lower his threat level.
Or get Billy
Um,
Garcia out.
yeah. He doesn't provide another one of those moments really for other people. Really the big moment he provides in Survivor history has to do with his own downfall, which we're getting to closely and I'm really excited to talk about.
Yeah, this
Uh,
is fascinating.
yeah.
Um, he was going to vote out Devons and Aubrey at the double duos until Sari came back from exile. And I think this is where we all started to realize Ozzy without Sari is a little problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, you start to realize why Ozzy got so close to Suri. Again, he's realizing that's what he has to do. He's
Yeah.
so self-aware this season that he realizes he can't win this game by himself because he's going to slip up and make mistakes.
And that's what's shocking about his downfall this season. Ozzy is unbelievably self-aware this season. Like maybe one of the most and every player this season, right, was coming back with baggage to a certain extent. And Ozzy was the best at like kind of rewriting some of his mistakes. Like he was doing a great job until but until then, um you know, he has an interesting relationship with Christian, which we talked about. He has some particularly biting confessionals during Christian's boot episode. Maybe Ozzy just doesn't really like that character type, um,
Yeah.
the nerdy guy. Um, but Ozzy, Suri, and Rizzo dominate the post-merge. Ozzy is a perpetual target in the post-merge, but never actually gets very many votes. And then we get to his boot episode. You ready?
Let's do it.
Yep. Um, So he has a dream that he doesn't play his idol and he's at Ponderosa with Coach and Stephanie. He says, quote, I don't want to have a Billie Eilish souvenir. Then he has a great moment with Devins talking about family. He says he's going by Oscar this season because he immaturely represented his father, Oscar, during the Cook Islands Final Tribal Council. He talks about his father's passing. We learn the significance of him playing as Oscar. His dad was a very gregarious social guy who lived in another country, and that made it hard for them to have time with each other. But he had to do that for his family, and Ozzy didn't realize it at the time, and their relationship was strained because of it. But he was trying this season to play as Oscar, and I think mission accomplished if that was his goal, right? Like he made his dad proud.
Yet another self-aware moment for Ozzy this season, going all the way back to his past. And not even it's something he mentions on Survivor, yes, but not even something that's related to Survivor up front. He's had the life experience that changed the amount of time to evolve into who he is, to properly see himself in the light of where he is in the world, where he is in the game in the last 20 whatever days it is up to this point. And it just feels like everything is going right for him, that he's done the right things. He's getting emotional. He's being honest and true to who he is. And just a little too true when it comes to telling Aubrey some information.
Well, he's in a seemingly good spot for the power broker, but no
Yeah.
siree. And that ends up being the danger spot, not just for Ozzy, but for Suri too. And without Ozzy's extra vote, Suri goes here as well. But let's get into the Aubrey, right? He tries to manage the jury with Aubrey, which should be an addendum to Boston Rob's Survivor rulebook. Just don't. You got to tell something about your game, but do it at
Mm.
like tribal, do it other place. Like, don't do it now. Like it didn't work for Andy. It definitely didn't work for Ozzy. Like don't do it. Don't do it. Like I was literally screaming at my TV, no. Like he tells her his whole game.
He says
Whole
everything.
game.
He says he wants to take Sari to the end, that's his number one, that he's working with Rizzo, but doesn't want to take Rizzo to the end, and that Sari has an extra vote and all these things. That just it just lays it all out there, and it creates an opportunity for Aubrey to go ahead and spill this information. I'm not going to make this the Aubrey conversation,
Yeah, we'll wait.
because I have a lot to say in, from her perspective as to why this was such a good play on her part. But yeah, she takes that information around, and Ozzy's name already seems like it's coming up. It's a big debate as to who really was in control of this move, who made the move. Was it
Yeah.
Jonathan? Was it Aubrey? Was it Rizzo? I mean, there's all these options on the table, uh, but this information, once it leaks, it's a nail in the coffin.
And like the thing about this is I think Ozzy might have just gotten caught up
Hmm.
in the moment. He was like, man, I can actually win this thing.
Yep.
Like he's so proud of how far he's come, you
Which
know?
he was right. He could have won this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. Like Ozzy legit like I thought Ozzy was on trajectory to win the game.
Yeah,
Like
I wouldn't.
with everything. I mean, he was getting such a awesome edit throughout this season, you know? And Ozzy's a fan favorite, right? Like we expect him to get a good edit most of the time. But man, I really thought this was the one. Like it just unravels in just a horrible. I mean, he Rick Devonsed himself. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, we're talking about Rick on Friday. You know, we talk about how Rick blows up people's games by telling information. Ozzy does this to himself in just the most devastating way possible.
It's tough because he has that same realization. He sees the finish line. He's not paying attention to the steps in front of him here. He says in confessional too, can't remember the exact words that he says, but the expression he gives to the producers and to us at home is, "Don't worry, guys. This is just jury management. This is fine. This is all part of my plan."
Oh, Ozzy.
And he's looking a step too far and just trips up before he can get to the finish line. It's all right. What he's saying is correct. He can do this. The finish line is in sight. This might be the highest upside he has if he can make it to the final tribal council. And now he's calling back to what happened on Cook Islands when he was just a couple votes away from winning and one challenge went away from potentially winning the game in South Pacific, and just seeing that in his future and just getting a little too confident saying, I just need to manage Aubrey here because I'm playing a strong game, add her to my collection of people that are going to vote for me. But man, that's just not the right time, not the right move, and something that's going to haunt him for a while, I'm sure.
And here's the crazy part. He still could have survived this had he played his idol.
Yeah. Yes.
He blew up his own game and could have literally fought another day had he played his idol.
Mhm.
History devastatingly repeating itself.
It's another, yeah, just, I mean, it's heart-wrenching. And we were two
Yeah.
people that weren't huge Ozzy supporters coming into season 50. We kind of wanted some other players to be there instead of him. But he wins you over during the season in a way you just don't expect. One of the most surprising, probably the most surprising story on the season itself. And then another mistake from the past comes back to get him. And he says he's not going to make the mistake. He says he's learned the lessons, but he just can't enact it. And wow, it's tough. He's confident enough, realizing again, another way, if he can keep this idol around, he'll make it to the end. He thinks he's safe here, doesn't realize that the cavalry has turned on him.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's all it takes.
And it's a phenomenal moment once Ozzy's voted out. He says, like, why, guys? Like, I trusted you, you know?
He
Uh,
said, I can't describe how much this hurts right now.
oh, shot to the heart. Uh,
Mhm.
I mean, the cinematography, the music, the pacing, all A plus here. Survivor's editing team was cooking on this one. Like right back in Cook Islands where he's from, right?
Yeah,
Well, the season, not
yeah, I
him
got you.
personally. Um, but man, like, I mean, the rack focus from Ozzy to Jeff. This
Nothing like
scene legitimately should be what Survivor submits for Emmy consideration.
it's so good. I mean, you mentioned the music already too. It's just everything in the season was leading to this because I think they were trying to set this move up as why Aubrey wins this season. I think there's
No
other
doubt.
reasons as well, but this was the big moment of the season. They wanted to build Ozzy up as much as they possibly could, not only because it was true and he was playing a strong game, but because his downfall was going to be the catalyst to who won the season in the producer's eyes.
Well, and this is the most pivotal sequence of events this season. This Ozzy boot, right, is the most pivotal sequence. Like if Ozzy doesn't blow this up, Sari has a legit shot of making it to the end of this game.
Crazy, crazy to think that's the case too. We're
Like,
about to read soon, so we'll definitely get into that. But
and legitimately, if they still take Sari out, then Ozzy becomes the main target.
yeah, but Ozzy thinks
Aubrey
he
gets
has an
taken out
idol.
here.
He's fine. Yeah, yeah.
It's just like this is the biggest domino effect in recent Survivor history.
Do you think this is? I mean, obviously he goes farther in other seasons. Do you think this is the closest he gets to winning a season?
I mean, it's hard to beat what he did in Cook Islands in terms of that was still an era where physical dominance was so highly ranked, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you think about Terry Dietz the season before, you think about Tom Westman, like there were guys that could have won seasons based on challenge prowess. And Ozzy had that. If he
Yeah.
was 3 or 4 years older, Ozzy wins Cook Islands.
Here's the thing, and I agree with you. I think he gets closer on probably. I mean, he
I
obviously,
think this is closer than South Pacific though.
yeah. In terms of Cook Islands, I'll stick with you on this. Um, I don't think he's in a scenario where he's ever going to win on Cook Islands and with the
Really?
season he has. Like with the season he plays, like I don't think once he gets to the end game and Yule is there,
Yeah.
as long as he's up against you, like we talked about, I don't think he's going to win the game. And he does what he needs to do to get there. He gets to the end, but I just don't see the winning scenario as long as Yule's one of those people he's going up against. There's winning scenarios here for Ozzy. So that's the argument I'd make to say this is closer. I still, I mean, like I said before I made this point, I think that obviously he does get closer on Cook Islands, that there was possibility if he could take you out, he gets there. But I just think there were more paths to victory for Ozzy here than
Yeah.
there really was in Cook Islands.
I think this was his best position to victory. Like in terms of like
Yeah.
a like you said, a path to get there. But yeah, you ready to get
Yeah.
into questions?
Yeah, just to continue on what you were saying there. It's like you have on Cook Islands, there's one path that you can take and Ozzy has to go down it.
South
And
Pacific, there's another one path.
there's another one path. You get to season 50, and now there's a couple forks in the road where
Yep.
there's so many paths, and they're all going to lead to a proper end game in which Ozzy can win the season. He just chooses the wrong fork and gets stabbed.
And that comes from his social game, and that comes from his strategic game. Those
Hmm.
two things are the only reason that that path exists. His
Yeah.
challenge performance was the only reason that he had a path to win in either of those other two seasons,
Hmm.
which is a really fascinating evolving of Ozzy's character. Um, why did this season feel different for Ozzy? Like, why did this season feel different from the others?
We've made the point a couple of times. I think it's the self-awareness here. He knows the environment that he's created for himself. Based on his past seasons, he knows the environment that he's in on the season. And the arrogance that we saw earlier, it starts to go out the door. He pushes it aside and says, I'm just going to do what it takes to win. I don't need to be the star this season. I don't need to be Poseidon or the Jungle Boy going back to where he is. But he's now a man. He's a man who has developed and grown and seen himself on TV and in life and realized this is who I am. This is how I can win this game. This is how I can succeed throughout the rest of my days, not just on the show, but beyond. And it comes across. The show allows us to see that. In seasons like Game Changers, we just don't get to see Ozzy. There could have
Yeah.
been some compelling things going on there. But the show knows it's such a good story. They have to lean into it. They have to show you who Ozzy is, why he succeeded, and why he fell again, and why you should love him for all of that.
Is Ozzy now a contender for the best narrative arc in the show's history?
Shockingly, yes. If you asked me that, if you asked me that 6 months ago, I'd be like, what are
Yeah,
you talking about? But he gets closer to winning multiple times, and I think anyone on the show's history
I
has.
agree.
3 times, he says third time's the charm when he gets voted off of South Pacific. You think third time might be the charm on season 50, but it's the same thing. The third time's the charm usually is a positive phrase. It's usually something, yay, we succeeded. Third time's the charm's another, oh, wow, this one, the charm is just the pain hits even harder and that it's potentially over.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has as good of a narrative arc over multiple seasons as Ozzy. Um, in terms of just the rise and the fall. Like it is classic storytelling, like through Ozzy's journey. Like you can see every part of this character, right? In a way that maybe you don't from other people. Like Parvati, it's a lot of like at the high, Like you see Boston Rob and like it starts low and then goes high and then, he wins, but like is it against the greatest competition and then kind of goes out with a whimper trying to do the same thing on Winners at War, Like some of these characters, like Sandra, but I don't know if anyone's as consistent. And ironically, the only other person I think you can really put in this category is Suri.
Hmm. But here's the thing with that, though. I'll use Sari as an example. You could use Rob as an example. You could use all these players who've gone on multiple season arcs as examples. Um, I think you could throw Coach in this lump as well, but
Yeah,
there's not like, well, Coach would go with Ozzy here, but I think a lot of players in the show that are going to be the mystical survivor players, the all-timers, are going to be propped up regardless of what season they're on.
true.
Like Sari is always propped up, not mainly because she's always doing great things, but the show is not afraid to show Ozzy at his worst.
Yeah,
The same thing applies for Coach. He has some low moments, but the low moments are lower, I think, in Ozzy's standpoint
yeah.
because it's sometimes where you genuinely go, I can't respect what you just did there. I can't respect you for saying that to Cochrane on South Pacific, whatever it may be, reacting in this way to the situations
Yeah.
that are there. Moments that genuinely make you feel like even though you don't know someone, you might not respect them for what
Hmm.
you're seeing on the screen. They're not afraid to go there and to let you feel that. And in our case, we feel that for many years coming off of Game Changers before we get the opportunity to see who Ozzy is in his full length again when he comes back. Because we all have down moments. We all have things we can look
Hmm.
back on ourselves and say, I don't respect that I did that, or
Yeah.
that I don't respect that, I don't like that that was the case.
Yeah.
And people should feel that same way. But that doesn't mean you can't come back and recover. You can still have that pain from the past, but have
Hmm.
success in the recollection, the self-reflection in the future to not necessarily throw that all away, but to push it to the side and say, this is who I am now. And it's because of who I was then.
Well, and I think this supports my theory on like what makes great characters. We both work in a media industry, right? That is all about sports. Like that's what we do. And I think so much of sports media that a lot of people don't understand is they just want to show people at their best. They want to show them scoring touchdowns and hitting threes and hitting homers and being the best and training hard and all these things, right? They want the Rocky montage. But that's unrealistic because that's not who people are at their core. At the end of the day, we all have struggles. We all have ups and downs. My dad once told me, dude, if nobody had struggles, you'd be out of a job, which is a fair point. And I think so often, like we very much as storytellers, as media people, as whatever, like there are characters that do things that we don't like, but then it has just as many moments that we do, right? And that's what endears us to them because we can see ourselves in them because we are not perfect people. I think of like Jamie Tart in Ted Lasso, somebody that a lot of people align with because they see themselves in the similar light. I know for me, like keeping on the Ted Lasso thing, Roy Kent, I see a lot of myself in Roy. Somebody who gets very frustrated with themselves when they feel like they're less than perfect. And at the end of the day, like that's part of what makes a great character, somebody we can see ourselves in.
Hopefully you've seen Ted Lasso because I'm gonna go with another character from the show.
Let's do it.
But Nate, I think, really is who Ozzy is throughout the season, right? An underdog early on who starts to find his way, gets this big name, gets arrogant, then gets pushed down to the bottom after he was on top, think he was going to win, and then has to come back, realize his mistakes, apologize to himself, self-reflect before he can get back to really where he is. Those are some spoilers for we should have spoiler warninged
It's all
Ted
right. It's
Lasso,
been out
but
for a couple of years.
yeah.
So is Emily Jade in this scenario, at least in
Maybe.
the AI
Maybe, yeah.
Facebook style.
I guess so.
Um, all right, what's Ozzy's legacy? Because I think this is a super complex question, and I think it's changed over the last couple of months. What is Ozzy's legacy? I mean, we know him as the greatest challenge performer in Survivor history. I don't care who you're going to argue. I'm going to argue Ozzy every time.
Ozzy is the do-it-all performer. That's what he was looked at from the beginning when it comes to challenges, when it comes to fishing, when it comes to doing all of those non-strategic things. He's always been known as that, but I still think that goes down as his legacy. The all-around performer. Now, the all-around performer stretches out to he's able to balance everything that he's done in the past when it comes to providing. Now he realizes I might not be the most strategic person, but that's okay. And I can be social, I can be emotional, I can change, I can open up to others about who I truly am, mixing all that together and be that all-around performer throughout all three facets of Survivor. Whereas early in his career, it was just the outplay portion where he was the all-around performer. Then he starts to try and work on the outwit portion, and now he has all three. He's able to outlast. He doesn't make it to the end, but he gets far in this game, makes the right moves in the game in order to outlast and win the game. Just that one wrong move again. Gonna bite him.
I think Ozzy's legacy is as Achilles. We talk about, the story of Achilles heel, the one mistake. And for Ozzy, you see that over and over again. This guy is unstoppable, except for one fatal flaw.
Yeah,
And a
that's
lot of
good.
times it's not listening to his own intuition.
That's it. Yeah, and the flaw is in a place maybe you really wouldn't expect it to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in South Pacific, he loses the challenge. You don't expect that from him. He gets to the end after winning all the challenges in Cook Islands. You wouldn't expect that from him. He plays a great game in 50, but tells Aubrey the information he shouldn't have, trying to jury management. You wouldn't expect that from him. It's the small things that fit in the margins, but when they grow, they expand the margins and destroy your game.
Even though Ozzy doesn't win season 50, I see season 50 as a redemption story for Ozzy, right?
For sure.
What are other characters we'd like to see have an Ozzy-esque redemption? This is the question I told you that I think is going to be a fun one to talk about. And I've been thinking about this, and I got a few options for you, but I want to hear what you have first. Like, what are other characters like that are multi-time players that like their last time was kind of lackluster that you'd like to see have an Ozzy-esque return and redemption?
Yeah. We mentioned Stephanie. I said that was something similar. I think she could really go on a run like that too. There was a lot of emotion with everything that's happened with her brothers in her life. Another one that's coming to my mind is James early on. I think he
Hey,
kind of went.
He was in a Russell Hantz video a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's still around, but he's someone that his perception changed as he went on because of some things he said,
Yeah,
and obviously what happened to him physically on his seasons. I think he's another one that could come back and really
that's a good one.
put some hearts back over as well. So those are two that come to my mind early on. What do you got for me?
I thought of Amanda.
Okay.
And ironically, it's because of Ozzy being on the season, Amanda doesn't go on 50, allegedly, because of the way their relationship ended. But Amanda's not super visible in Heroes versus Villains, right? And she had such a strong impact in her first two seasons. Like, I'd love to see her give it another shot, right? And I think the game she plays back then, there are some parts that would be super successful now, and I think there are parts that wouldn't fit, but I'd be really interested to see what happens. Another one that comes to mind, again, from Heroes vs. Villains, Courtney Yates. I'd love to see her give another go, see what happens, right? Like, I think there's some really interesting storytelling that could take place with Courtney, um, with who she is as a person and how she interacts and how she does things. And then the final one that comes to mind is Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, all these people were in heavy in the casting process for season 50. But Malcolm is another person, that has this kind of, um, Ozzy superstardom to start, right? Like everyone loves Malcolm. And then on Game Changer, he's taken out early, like rather unceremoniously. Um, And then we just don't see him for a while. I'd love to see Malcolm come back. I'd love to see him get his redemption that he very much deserves. Ryman is another player.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer, um, similar things, right? That he's been through a lot. And Ozzy's story in his personal life is not all sunshine and rainbows either. Like there have been some controversial things with Ozzy, just like with Ryman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing about reality TV and about these characters is through this lens, we can see them for who they are as people. If you can
Right.
look past the veneer of the reality TV, some actions add up to who they are as people. And I think this would be a really fascinating thing. I'm just happy we got to talk about some other people that could fit into this category.
Yeah.
But because I was
Ryman
just thinking about it.
Ryman's one I was thinking of as well. That was what
Yeah.
came to my
He
mind.
would never go back, I don't think.
I think he was in the casting process, and I think
I
he
know
would
he
want to go
was. Yeah.
back. I think that would be fascinating to see him. Another one from Kaguya originally, I think Cass McQuillan would be a good one to come back.
And she ain't coming back.
She's not going to, but but I could keep asking.
That's fair. Oh, I had one and I forgot who it was. It was somebody like I thought about Corinne for a second, but nah, I don't think there's like a redemption thing with Corinne. Like I don't think that's
Yeah.
her character type.
I mean,
I think
Jerry
for
coming
me, it
back
has,
would have been one.
yeah, I think it has to be somebody that's like kind of a hero in some way, you know?
Hmm.
Like I don't think Russell coming back would be like super heroic or anything,
Yeah.
nor do I think it would happen. Um, but yeah, like that's kind of what I'm kicking around. David Wright maybe.
Yeah. I mean, David was always he was always a loved, beloved character even
Yeah,
when he went out. So
yeah.
yeah.
All right, you ready for a final question?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So at the end of every podcast, you've been sticking with us. First of all, what are you doing? Subscribe, like, let us know what you think about characters which characters we should talk about next. We're gonna run through our Survivor 50 players, and then we'll continue on with that. But let us know what you think about Ozzy as well down in the comments. What did you think about his trajectory on the season? Now that I've plugged our podcast, I'll ask the final question. Thanks for sticking around. But every podcast, we ask whether the character we're talking about in the episode, in this case it's Ozzy, is a hero, a villain, or an anti-hero throughout the entirety of their arc on Survivor. Not just one season. In this case, we have 5 seasons from Ozzy to talk about here. So Tristan,
Yeah.
in all of his seasons, do you think Ozzy is a hero, a villain, or an anti-hero? This one is tough.
I think Ozzy's a hero, but I think he's a tragic hero. Kind of going back to some things we've talked about, with other characters. Like I think Ozzy has these huge highs and he has some debilitating lows. Um, but at the same time, I think there's a tragedy, like some of the great um, plays in folklore, right? Like there's a lot of that in Ozzy, you know. It's funny that he's, nicknamed Poseidon because there's a lot of like mythology kind of stuff in his story, right? That you can bring up. Um, but yeah, I'd say Ozzy's a hero, but a tragic hero.
Yeah, my answer is similar but different than yours. I think tragic hero kind of falls towards the anti-hero side of it because the tragedy comes from the villainous things that he has done. Because there are some villainous things that he's done in his past, but there's also so much heroic actions that we see from Ozzy throughout his seasons, particularly in Survivor 50. He raises his way up towards the hero element of it, but because of his past that still lingers with him, that's a part of him, it makes me think anti-hero. And that's
Mm.
not to say that I think that's how he was in his most recent season, but I think it's because he is a hero, but he has to rise from the more villainous tendencies, the arrogance, the non, just not being self-aware in order to get to where he is now. So I say anti-hero on that. It's tough though.
Well, fair enough. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Make sure to follow us on socials. We are talking about Rick Devens on Friday. We'll have the news report when that happens. Thanks for joining us. That's Tyler. I'm Tristan. We'll see you on Friday.